For this training purposes, we're going to talk about prospecting for expireds. So here's the dialogue that I have, and what we can do is we can do a little role playing, and in fact, what we could do as well, I could actually call somebody live, and I have it on a microphone so we can hear it, and so you can see and hear a live conversation with a real seller. Okay. And see how that conversation plays out. So that's really the best training, because we can do some dialogue here back and forth. But so here I have two different scripts. I'm going to scroll down. There's one for non-agents down here, and then there's one. This top one here is for agents like yourself, because obviously the script is going to be a little different if you're an agent or you're not. Okay. Yeah. So here's how it's going to play out, and I'll just kind of read it. So I'm going to call the seller, confirm that that is the seller. Okay. And then once I confirm, I'm going to just go in and say, well, you're an agent, so you're just basically say, hey, I'm working with the buyer that would be interested in purchasing your home. And then, just a short pause, and then go on to the next sentence, say, would you be interested in selling on a lease purchase term? And then you kind of pause and wait for the seller to respond. He or she is going to say a few different, could be one of many different scenarios. So the seller may respond with, well, who is this again? And then that's when you could introduce yourself, say, hey, this is Paula with, and then you tell them your company name, and, then you say, I have a buyer that is interested, but he needs some lease purchase terms, and so he may go into, well, what does that mean? So the only thing that you really need to know about the lease purchases at this point is just the basic understanding. So basically, the way this works, Mr. Seller, we'll just call him Mr. Smith. The way this works, Mr. Smith, actually just call him by his first name, okay? You want to get personal with these people, and don't be formal, People they don't like salespeople anyway. And the cool thing is, you're not selling them anything. You're not trying to list the house. You're just gathering information to see if this property of his or hers would be something that we would be interested in purchasing, because he or she is interested in offering the lease purchase. So then you would go on and so if he or she, I'll just call him John. John says, well, what is a lease purchase? And you basically said, well, basically what it is, it's a lease with a purchase option to buy at a future date. And the reason why our buyer has to do it this way is because they cannot get traditional financing at this point in time. So we have to help them get their credit restored while they're in the lease purchase and making payments to you. Okay, and that's basically all you have to say. If they start going into details about, well, how much is your buyer going to put down? What's the length of the term? How much is he going to pay me? What happens if he doesn't close when he's supposed to? A number of things that he's going to ask. But the nice thing is, for all intents and purposes sake, you don't have to worry about knowing everything. So all you're doing is gathering information and getting a confirmation. So, John, it sounds like you are interested. Am I hearing you right? And then basically he said, yeah, I need some more information. No, I understand. So let me do this for you, John. Let me put you in touch with my buyer directly. And he's going to be better to answer those questions for you than I would, because this is what he does. He buys properties all over the country. So what's the best time to reach you back? And is this the best number? And that's it. You close the conversation down and appreciate his time and be on your way. And then you go to the next one. But before you go on to the next one, obviously you want to take that information that you gathered shoot it over to me in an email. That's the best way to communicate with me, by email, and say, here's his name, here's his number, here's the address, okay? And then if there's any little notes that you feel necessary that I need, that you feel important, maybe, you know, something that you had or he shared with you, like, hey, I really need to get out of here quick, or you see his sense of motivation, you feel it's of value to share with me, then you can put that down in the little notes. But just don't spend a whole lot of time with it, because it's really not a time-consuming thing.
Right.
So that would be like a scenario, okay? So so that's basically how I have everything written in here, in short. So I give you a couple other scenarios, you know, of questions and answers. So, like, you know, we talked about the sales price up front. Basically, we're going to offer them what, you know, fair market value, what they're asking for the property. I mean, obviously, it has to appraise. Again, but that's nothing you really have to get, you know, into a long-winded conversation about. On Zillow to obtain listings, and I pulled this up. Can you see that screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep. Awesome. So what I did, oh crap, went away. Okay, so what I did is I pulled up an area. If it would stop acting up on me. I pulled up Houston, Texas. Can you see that in the little box?
Yep.
Okay. So then you filter. By default, it has everything checked. So you want to go in there and just check owner by owner for sale and leave everything else out. Okay. Price, it doesn't matter. If you wanted to stay within a certain price, you could go 50, you know, let's do 50 to 350,000. Now, obviously, when we get in New York City, you know, sky's the limit. And then it'll do a new search, and then you'll see these boxes here of homeowners. Mm-hmm. Basically, you can click on them, and then once you click on it, you can scroll down, and then you can, here's the seller's phone number right here, okay? And so that you can call the homeowner and ask about the property. Basically going to ask them, hey, are you interested in selling your property with lease purchase terms, okay? So let's do a couple. I'm going to type in Atlanta, Georgia, okay?
Okay.
And do a refresh. And now, as you know, in real estate, it's a numbers game. It might take 100 calls to get one person, but that one person, you know, is going to be the golden egg that you could generate a lot of income off of, as well as help out the homeowner situation. And that's our goal, you know, to educate customers, clients out there that do not know that this option is available to sell their home. And our offer, just so you know, Paula, the offer that we present to these folks is the best offer. I don't like to use the word guaranteed, but if we do the numbers and break down how it all shakes out, because they're not having to pay real estate commissions. I mean, you're still going to get paid, but you're going to get paid from the buyer that we put in the property. So the seller doesn't have to pay real estate commissions. They don't have to pay closing costs. And they get fair market price for their home. In addition, they get their mortgage paid for if they have one on their property. And that is going to continue to allow them to have the tax advantages. They don't have to worry about the upkeep of the property. That's going to be taken care of from our tenant buyer. and they don't have to worry about the maintenance or anything like that, and they don't have to be, they're not a landlord, so they don't have to worry about any of the headaches. And then at the end of the term, they're going to get cashed out the full amount. So that's the best deal you're going to get. If somebody offers cash, you know, unless you're in New York City and there's a few other hot spots, you're not going to get full price. You're just not. Cash buyers don't pay full price in most parts of the United States, except for New York City. And they're just, you know, they're buying up, I mean, they got cash, and very few of them even go after loans. They just have the cash, and there are people coming in from other countries. Now that we have our new president, I don't know if that's going to continue. And so we'll have to wait and see. But so anyway, I'm kind of getting off track here. So here's what we do. We'll click on this first property here, and I'm going to scroll down. Now, another thing I'll teach you, Paula, is, you know, the best times to call people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, today's day and age, you know, people have cell phones. So back in the day when I first started in real estate, they always say call between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. And that's no longer true. People work from the house more. They have their cell phones and stuff like that. So I'm going to call this person up now, because it doesn't matter what time you call them. Now, if you, you know, since this is your main full-time business, I would recommend leaving a message for them to call you back if you get their voicemail. So it doesn't matter whether or not they pick up the phone. You're still going to be very productive, because what's going to happen is if they don't pick up the phone, you're going to leave a message. And basically the message is going to say, hey, this is Paula. I have an interest in your property. Please call me back as soon as you can. You know, I have an interested buyer in your property, or something in that regard. I'm interested in purchasing your property. Call me back. And you got to say that because, well, if it's an expired, they're going to think, well, you're an agent just trying to get the listing. So you want to clarify, I'm not interested in listing your property. I'm interested in selling it. I have a buyer that's interested. And then for sale by owners, same thing. You just treat yourself like a buyer, and you basically would say, hey, this is Paula. I'm interested in possibly purchasing your property. Can you call me back? And that's it. And then give them your best phone number to call you back at. Now, okay. The only thing is when they call you back, you're not going to have their property information in front of you. So, but that's okay, because you just want to say, oh, okay, yeah, thanks, John, for calling me back. And now I call several people today, so can you refresh my memory on the property address? What is the property address? So they'll give you the property address, and then you just jot it down. And then you would basically just start off with the conversation just like you would have with the dialogue that I provided for you. Yeah?
Right, yep.
Okay. So let me call this person here and see how it plays out. I'm going to put it on speakerphone. Hopefully you can hear me and hear the phone. And then you can just kind of listen in.
Okay.
And see how it goes. Okay. Can you hear it ringing?
I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear it ringing?
Yep.
Okay, I turned it up a little bit. Let me see if I can get this person home. Hello. Hey, I was calling about your property for sale. Is this the homeowner?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, would you consider doing lease purchase terms on your property by chance if I was get you full price?
Well, not interested.
Not interested in lease purchase? Okay. So if you're just interested in selling outright, or you'll just keep it?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. So that's it. Okay. And then you just go to the next one. Now, now I went a step further in my script that I didn't share with you in the dialogue. That's a little bit more of an advanced stage, but since you heard me say it, I'll explain it to you. So let's say, what I was doing is getting confirmation that this is the only option they're going with, just standard sell outright, or nothing,
Okay.
Let's say they said, no, I really got to sell it. And so then I would probably go on to say, well, how long do you think you're going to try it this way? Or I might say, well, just curious, have you gotten any offers yet? If they say yes or no, then I can kind of role play with them a little bit more. They might say, well, yeah, I have, but they're not what I wanted, so I wasn't interested in selling outright. So then I might feel them out and say, well, are you familiar with how lease purchases work? Or I might, start picking their brain a little bit more and seeing where, I'm looking for a problem so I can offer a solution. Yeah. So maybe they get to the point, it's like, you might ask them a question, well, why are you selling the property, if you don't mind me asking? You always want to say, if you don't mind me asking, or I like to throw in the word, the statement, just out of curiosity. Sometimes I'll ask that in the price, just out of curiosity, where did you arrive at that price? But that's for another training segment, and I'll share that with you when you go out and prospect for listings, okay, on foot. But I just wanted to throw that out there because it kind of softens the blow,
Mm-hmm.
and that way they don't feel so defensive. You don't want people getting defensive, so you throw in, hey, just curious, So let me see. I'm going to try to get another one here on the phone and see if we can get a different outcome. Okay, so here's another number. Let me see. But that person answered the phone. So you just never know.
You never know.
Right. Now, unfortunately, they don't have the names here of the people, so you can't call them by name. So you're kind of flying blind here.
Yeah.
It's best if you can talk to them by name because it's more personal. Hello, is this the homeowner with the house for sale on Booker Avenue?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was curious about your property. Is it still available?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm looking to buy some property in this area. Would you consider selling me your property on a lease purchase term by chance?
Not right now.
Not right now? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you just you just need the cash out right now, or?
Yeah, you can cash it out.
I gotcha. Have you gotten any offers on it yet, or?
A lot of inquiries, but I think it's been up to 10 or 12 days, and it's probably getting into the Thanksgiving thing, so hopefully it starts like picking up.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you haven't had it on very long. Okay. All right. Well, can I ask you why you're moving, or when you need to move?
No, it's basically I'm an investor. My investment property, I have a tenant in place right now,
Oh, okay.
and I had it since about 2009, and I'm just, moving on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's cool. You got somebody in it, so you're getting at least getting some positive cash flow off of it. So I gotcha. All right, sir. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
All right. Good luck to you. Bye. All right. So that's that. Now, this person, the property's not vacant, so that does not get them motivated as much.
Yeah.
They can sit on it all day long. They're getting a positive cash flow. Obviously, the tenant is making the payments on time, but you might run across where the tenant, got some, they got a bad tenant in there and they need to get them out. So that's a situation that's going to be attractive for them to be motivated. So that's really, a good way to go. Let me see if, you want me to try another one?
Let's try one more and see what happens. Maybe
Okay.
for sale by owner that's been on the market for like 2 or 3 months, or maybe even more.
Right.
It shows it right there.
Yeah, let me close this out and see. Okay, you see where my mouse is?
Mm-hmm.
See, there's the days. This one's 29 days, 29 days. Yeah, let's see if we can get something over. That's 44 days. Oh, here we go. Here's one for 202 days.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. So now here's a sure sign that is the reason why. Now Zillow, their estimates they don't always hold true.
Mm-hmm.
Because what Zillow does right now, and I don't know why they don't do something a little more accurate, but they pull every purchase, every sold property. It doesn't matter if it's foreclosed on, bank owned, it doesn't matter, rehab, and they just pull all the averages. So, but based on, this house being on the market for 202 days, it's pretty obvious that this property owner has it overpriced. And then Zestimate has it at 131, which is over $40,000 less, which is really drastic. So I'm thinking I could tell you pretty strongly that this seller is overpriced on the property. That's why it's not selling. So let me try to ring that person up and see if I can get them on the phone. And then I'm going to point out to the fact that I know that they've been on the market for a long time. Let's see if they answer the phone. Gosh, I wish they'd give the name. Sometimes they do give the name.
Sometimes,
yeah, sometimes, but last 3 times we tried, no luck. So, yeah, they may not be home.
Please leave your name, number, and
Okay.
or text me for a faster response.
Okay, so he gave me his name. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a message for this person. Hey, Brandon, this is Jim. I was calling about your property on McDaniel. I may have an interest in it. Not sure if it's still available or not. But if it is, give me a call back. You can reach me direct at 770-374-0313. And if you get my voicemail, just leave your name, best number, and the address that it's pertaining to. I appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. Bye. So that's how you leave a message that, to somebody that's not home. And let's see if we can get... Here's another thing too, I mean, there's so much that I can share with you about these because, this is a lot of information that you get. Like this homeowner, you see the $3,600. They lowered the price. See, there's a price cut at $3,600. So they're leaving $3,600 on the table, so to speak. But they probably, in reality, they probably realized, well, I was overpriced,
Yeah.
So this one's been on the market for 90 some days. I'm going to try to call this one, and then this will be the last one. But you get an idea of how this plays out, and it's a numbers game. This isn't a get rich scheme thing, but once you start building up, you're planting seeds. Then you're going to start getting residuals coming in all the time because more and more people are going to respond back to you. And then you got a pipeline, just a pipeline of people reaching out to you. Okay, another message. Okay, so I'm going to leave a message for him. Hey, this is Jim. I was calling about your property for sale in Atlanta, the one at 361 17th Street. If it's still available, I may have an interest in the purchase. Give me a call back, 770-374-0313. That number again, 770-374-0313. Thank you, sir. Bye. Okay, so that's that. That sound pretty easy, Paula? Paula?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not worried about this because I was, calling expires and for sale by owners out of Silo
Okay.
is, like, I guess getting to have an interest in the lease.
Right, the
purchase
listing.
option.
Yeah.
Now, would you care to explain to me what's the difference? Because obviously, a lot of sellers are not interested in a lease to purchase option.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you ask 100 people that are selling their home, they're all going to say, I want cashed out. Well, of course you do. In the perfect world, that would be wonderful, but we don't live in a perfect world. So
Right.
what you want to do is get some clarity. Do you have to sell? Because if you don't, go ahead and continue what you're doing, and hopefully the right buyer comes along for your property.
Mhm.
Now, time, changes all time changes all circumstances. With enough time being on the market, the seller is going to have to look at some other options if they have to sell, and those are the people that we're interested in. Okay, if they don't have to sell, this isn't going to be very attractive to them. Okay, but I read something the other day, and see if I even have it handy. I thought it was pretty good quote, because I like to read powerful quotes. And basically what the guy was saying is, here it is, when you are no longer willing to tolerate something, that's when your life changes. So people who don't have goals, let's see, if they don't have goals, then they get used by people that do. Okay, and it's a little off the subject, but the thing is, if they don't really have a goal in selling their home, I mean, they're just kind of throwing it out there, see what happens. Hey, let's throw enough crap up against the wall and see what sticks, right? Those aren't the sellers we're looking for. We're filtering out, because what we're doing is we're sorting through the people that are serious about selling their home, and they cannot, under normal, traditional conditions, and those conditions are with a real estate professional like yourself.
So how does, I'm sorry, I just
Sure.
need to have an understanding of how
Sure.
the lease to purchase works.
Sure.
For the homeowners. If I own this place and you come and say lease to purchase option, I say yes. So tell me how that works.
Sure. So basically what we're going to do, here's, I don't know if you can still see my screen. I'm pulling up something else here. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Okay. So here's something that I use as an example, just as a marketing tool for somebody, where they can see example, seller's asking price is $200,000. Our company offers $200,000. Now, if you break down the seller's efforts, on an average of 120 days, because that's the average nationally through the United States that properties stay on the market before they sell. And there's a lot of other scenarios involved as well, because they could be higher, they could be lower, depending on how they price them. If the real estate professional took the listing at the right price based on the market conditions, then obviously that's going to fall in line with the 120-day average. And then they break down the commission of what they got to pay out in commissions, and then the actual percentage of a successful closing. And this is an example for sale by owners. Only 8% of all for sale by owners sell their home without a realtor. Only 8%. And that research has been provided by the National Association of Realtors. Okay, anybody that doesn't know what the National Association of Realtors is, that is, I don't know if you call them a company. I call it a resource, but it is a corporation that tracks all the data information throughout the United States of what's selling. And they have access to all the tax records and the sales and the agents' sales and all that information through Realtor.com. So that's where that average comes in. And then the seller's total gross profit before any existing loan payoff would shake out to $188,000 to them. And then we have a column here that shows them how much money they could actually save by going the lease purchase route. So to answer your question, here's how it plays out. A lease purchase, the seller would ask, well, just pretend like you're the seller and you're asking me these questions because you don't know. So you're asking me the first question, how does this work? Well, what we do as an investment company, we have a pool of buyers that have bad credit, but yet they still want to buy a property in your area, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and they cannot get traditional financing right now. So they need to get into a lease purchase, and basically another term for lease purchase is rent to own. And so what we do is we establish the price of the home up front, and this is the price that they're going to lock into. And just for training purposes, we're going to use this example I have on my screen at $200,000. So
Right.
Paula, you have a house for sale at $200,000. We're going to take you up on that price, and we're not going to beat you up on the price because there's got to be some give and take. We're in a lease purchase term because of the fact we got to make it attractive for you as well, in order for you to get excited about entering into a lease purchase, because of the fact that you have to wait to get cashed out. It could be a year or less, typically anywhere from 6 months to a year. Okay, so we lock in the price, and then basically what we're going to do is we're going to take over your existing mortgage, okay, not to exceed the market value. And what I mean by that is if you have a high interest rate that's like above 8% or more, then we're going to pay you up to what somebody would pay if they were to get a loan today, okay, or close to it. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that your payment's $1,000, okay? So that includes your taxes and insurance. So we're going to pay you $1,000 a month. There is going to be a down payment established. It's a smaller amount, typically about 2% or less, provided that the property is in move-in condition. And a lot of times the seller might say, well, I need a lot more down. Well, yeah, I get you. I understand, because they don't want the risk of vacancy or property being trashed, things of that nature. What they don't understand is they hear these horror stories from people that don't do this for a living, okay? I do this for a living and have been for 20-some years, so I know how to pre-screen the tenant buyer. And I'm not going to just throw any tenant buyer in there, because I want the success rate of them actually closing out the deal so we can all get paid. Fair enough? Okay.
Right.
So what happens, we put together a contract, and it basically spells out the term. It's going to give you the price, what's expected of us as far as taking care of the home. And then there's an appraisal contingency in there, because the house does have to appraise at what we ask you or offered you, the $200,000. And because the buyer, once we get them qualified, there's going to be an appraisal done by their lender. And if the lender doesn't get the appraisal to come in at that amount, then we're basically setting our client up for failure. They're not going to be able to buy that property because the house didn't appraise. And a seller has to understand that nobody's going to pay more than what the property appraises for if they're getting traditional financing. Okay. So they make the monthly payments. We will make sure that the payments are paid in the manner that the seller wants us to. Some sellers will have us make the payment directly to the mortgage company. Sometimes they would prefer making it to them and then they go on to make the mortgage payment to the mortgage company. However way they feel most comfortable. We don't care either way. It's just that we have to share the proof of payment being made. Yeah? Okay.
So if I say, okay, I agree with that. So what am I gonna get? Like, what's the next step? That you're gonna, accept my $200,000 I'm asking for the property.
Mm-hmm.
So you said I'm gonna get 2% down. You're gonna give me 2% down.
Yes. So 2% of your asking price is $4,000. Okay. And that's non-refundable, but it does get credited towards the purchase. So $4,000 will come off of that $200,000 at the time of closing. Now we get paid from our buyer. So Paula, as a seller, you wouldn't have to bear any of those expenses. Okay. Now you're only going to get paid what your mortgage is if you have one. If you don't, then you're going to get paid the market rate. Okay. If I was to go out and get a loan today for $200,000 and they established a payment, that's what you would get. Okay.
So I'm sorry. So basically I will get the $4,000.
Yes.
I will have to move out of the house.
Yes.
And then you guys continue to pay my mortgage payments.
Now what we'll do is you as a seller won't have to move out of the property until we locate, well, we have buyers right now. So it's just a matter of getting our buyers in to see the property. And you would just have to allow them to gain access to the property, take a look at it. If it's something to their interest they'd like to move forward with, and that's when we would give you a time frame to vacate the property, depending on your situation. Some sellers that we run into, they already have a place picked out. They can, or they might be halfway out the door already, and they can be out in a week or two. Others, it's like, hey, I need some more time. No problem. So they might say, I need 30 days. That's no problem. So we work around the seller's schedule, within reason. We can't hold up a buyer from moving into a property, for 2 months or something like that. That's just crazy. It does happen. There are some occasions where we could get a buyer that might be in a lease and they're just trying to finish up that lease term. And so there are, again, exceptions to the rule. So yes, once we get the buyer lined up and then we put obviously we already have the terms together, and then we're going to have a separate set of terms with our buyer. Okay. Our buyer is going to have terms that would include our fees. So we might turn around and sell this property to our buyer for $210,000. Okay. It's just all negotiable. We may get, we usually get more on a monthly basis as well. So you as a seller, you get your mortgage payment, and our example set $1,000 a month. So we might get these people, the buyers, to pay us $1,500 a month. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then we get the difference of the spread. Okay. There's a $500 positive cash flow that we're collecting each month for our services from the buyer. Okay. Again, the seller's not paying anything for our services. Now, if something breaks, then our contract with you, the seller, it's our responsibility to fix it. Now, we have our separate contract with the buyer that states they're responsible to fix it. Okay. But we we have each of those contracts in place to protect everybody's best interest. Bottom line is the problem will be fixed at our cost or the cost of our buyer. So at the end of the term, they could close sooner. They could get 6 months. And let's say our credit repair company was able to get John Doe, our buyer, qualified, and they go ahead and proceed with closing, then everybody gets cashed out. Another question that sellers might have is, well, what happens if they don't close in a timely manner? That's probably one of the biggest questions that gets asked. Well, then you have an option, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, to extend the contract to allow more time to get to the finish line, or you can cancel the contract, keep the $4,000, and take your property back. No harm, no foul, and keep on keeping on. Okay. But what I always tell sellers too, sometimes things happen in life that are beyond our control. So we have to assess the situation. So if it was something that wasn't, neglectful from the buyer, and maybe they had a hiccup with their insurance or whatever, or their credit, and they need a few more weeks, then, hopefully the seller will be open-minded to, okay, I'll extend a few more weeks. It sounds like it's still moving in the right direction. But technically, by law, you have a contract with us for that year, and if that year falls short and we're not able to, make it happen, you can cancel that contract, keep the $4,000, and get your property back. So
you do the contracts are for a year?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes longer if we can, but we like to, have the shortest window possible, because obviously that's when we get the bulk of our pay, and that's when, we're only as good as our last sale. So obviously, quicker that we can close the deal, the better for everybody, and
so what happens if you can't find a buyer?
Well, that's a good question. We have had a couple occasions that we hadn't. So what happens is, in our contract, we usually put within a 90-day window.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't generate a buyer that fits that scenario within 90 days, and the seller, has a better offer or just wants to do something else, we can cancel our contract with them. No harm, no foul. So they're not locked into this contract with us. We don't want to have a property more than 60, 90 days anyway, because if we can't get somebody turned onto this property pretty quickly, then it just doesn't, obviously if somebody's not interested in the property, then after 60 days, then it's just not going to be a sellable property for us. And we've had.
I have so many questions right now that I don't even know where to start. Yeah.
Now we've had a scenario. We've only had it a couple times actually. We had one way out in the boonies. I think it was looking at my map. It was in Iowa, and it sat on 20 acres of land, but there was nothing around it. There was nothing around it. It was a modular home, which we don't typically do modular homes unless they are setting on their own land, and this clearly sat on its own land at 20 acres, but we could not get anybody interested in the property in 60 days. And so we said, we're going to pass on this option. And that's something that we put in writing. So they were clear on it and understood, and they said, no problem. So,
okay, so this is my question. So if the seller stays in the property, he doesn't vacate, and he agrees on the contract, on the lease to purchase.
Yes.
You said you, as the investor, will start paying the mortgage payments for them until you get a buyer?
No, we don't make mortgage payments before we get our buyer in place. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, we'd lose so much money.
So you only give upfront, you only give the down payment to the seller, pretty much to like lock the property down?
No, we lock the property down with a contract only. In the
So what's the
contract,
down payment?
yeah, in the contract it states within 30 days of obtaining a buyer, the seller will get the $4,000.
And if you
Okay.
don't obtain a buyer?
Then either
There's
party
no
can
down
quit.
payment.
Yeah, either party can cancel the contract at any time. Some sellers feel like, well, I don't want to be locked into this contract for 90 days, and then through my own efforts, a buyer comes along and wants to purchase property, and I can't do anything. No problem. We'll put that in the contract as well, because we feel confident we're the best deal. I mean, we have the best marketing in place, and the best resources of people to turn on to the property. And if you, the seller, can obtain a property ready, willing, and able to buy before we are, hey, we're not going to punish you for that. We'll cancel the contract with us, and congratulate you and be on our way. So we don't want you to feel like you're being tied down in any way to our contract. Obviously, we're looking out for we're creating win-win situations, and we don't want to take that equation out of the process of the sale.
So the property never really goes on your name. It goes from the seller to the buyer.
Yes. Basically what we do is we enter into a contract with the seller. We create a trust, a land trust. Okay. So that way it's protected. We don't want to put any contract in our name personally for legal purposes. Our attorney instructed us a long time ago, and it makes sense. So let's say I put the property into our company name. Well, if I have 100 properties, which Bash Investment does, they have quite a few properties, 100 and some properties. Let's say if I put all those properties under one name, and let's say John Doe slips and falls at one of the properties that our name is in, our company name is under, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to sue the investment company because I slipped and fell. Well, guess what? They could tie up all the properties that our investment company, Bash Investment, has in their name. And so we don't want other sellers to be punished or have legal, have their property tied up legally for no reason at all. So,
right.
So that's what we do. But once, keep in mind, this isn't a sale at this point. It's a lease purchase. So we're leasing with the option to purchase at the end of the term. So it's just a delay of closing is basically what it is. And so you as the seller, the title's going to stay in your name. You're going to continue reaping the benefits of the tax benefits, and having somebody else pay your mortgage for you during that process. And then at the end of the term, the title would transfer out of your name into the buyer that we put in there, because they're cashing you out and you're on your way.
So how do you find your buyers? I mean,
Well, we have several marketing ways to do it. Through social media. We also have our own network of people that we're members of, and I can't remember how many people are in the membership, but it's an investment company's web group, I guess you'd call it. It's a website they belong to. It's called, this is just one of them, it's called biggerpockets.com, and it's free to join. And it's just another resource that we go through to share our properties with that investors can see. And, it's all about networking. So sellers will, investors may have a buyer that called about their property and it didn't fit their needs. So now they find out, hey, Jim, I noticed that you had a property over in Fort Worth, Texas, because I saw you advertise it in our forum, and I have a buyer that may work for that. So then we'll throw a nice referral to that other investor. We also, advertise through all the websites that's available out there. There's 20, 30 websites out there. Plus we have our own personal website. We have lead capture pages through what I consider number one marketing system in the world, really. And what it does, it locates buyers through their search tools. If they're looking for a property, obviously they can go on Google and they can find us that way. So there's a lot of different ways. And then obviously the standard way of having a sign out, we get sign calls. So, it's just a lot of ways that we market to get our buyers. And then through agents as well. Agents might have a buyer that can't get traditional financing. They don't want to lose that buyer. They want to help the buyer out and be compensated for the expense that they put into obtaining that buyer. So that's another way as well.
So this is kind of like what home partners do, pretty much, right?
Home who? Buyers?
Home partners.
Partners?
Yeah, there's a website, Home Partners of America.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with them, but I mean, we're not the only sheriff in town, so to speak. I mean, there's a lot of
people doing this. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have similar, groups and campaigns and programs and things like that. But we have access to, all the other people as well. So we get, our exposure out in the masses.
Yeah. So going back to my fee, partnering up with you on this, you said it's a referral fee.
Yeah. So let me give you an example. So let's say we're going to use this same scenario. We give the seller $4,000. Okay. And let's say we collected a total of $10,000 from our buyer. Okay. Now, $6,000 we get to retain for our services. The $4,000 goes to the seller. So out of that $6,000, you would get a referral fee of 25% of that amount. So $6,000 times 25% is $1,500. Okay, and that's just what we do on that, just for putting us with this seller, and we get a deal. And that's with you not locating a buyer, none of that stuff. Now, if you wanted to get more involved and generate more income off this same property, because some of our students, when all they do is call, just like I did. They call, they put us in touch with the seller once they get confirmation that the seller is interested, and then your job's done. Okay. Once we market the home ourselves, get the buyer involved, do the contracts, the signing, collections of the rents, the down payment, then you get paid the $1,500 in this example. But you're already on to another phone call. So you can start getting residuals pretty quickly without having too much involvement. Now, if you wanted to get more involved, which we are very open to that, we don't have no problem. We'll show you how to market the property different ways. If you generate the buyer, then it becomes a 50-50 split, right down the middle. So you'll get 50% of the down payment that we get to retain. In this example, it would be the $6,000. You'd get $3,000 of it.
If I find the buyer. If I
Yes. Yep. If you bring the buyer, when in this same example, we were collecting $1,500 and we pay the seller $1,000, then that $500 extra dollars is going to be split up 50-50 as well. Okay. And then at the end of the term, let's say we sold the property for, I think we use an example of
200.
210, right? Or let's say we sold it for 215. So $215,000 that we sold it to the buyer, and they go ahead and close us out in 8 months. Okay. Then that remaining profit will be split 50-50 as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
You have some other questions?
What's the turnover? What's your turnover doing this kind of deal with the sellers? I don't know if you have done it much here in Atlanta.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I lived down there for 20 years. And I have several properties down there right now that I own. The success rate of them closing in a timely manner is not very high, and I'd be lying if I told you different. Okay. But we recently have put in place something of great value, which is a resource of ours, a lady out of Dallas, Texas, that specializes in credit repair, and she does all 50 states. So she is able to work some serious magic, which would include removing tax liens off credit reports. Now, I have a segment and a video interview with her, and you can view that through my YouTube channel anytime you like, and then also on our social media platform through Facebook, LinkedIn, and all those other social networks. It's out there. But she talks about how they can remove it from the credit report. That doesn't mean that it takes away the responsibility of that tax lien, because that's government. Okay, student loans, anything that's attached to the government, that doesn't go away. It just comes off the credit report so they can buy a home. That's all. And that's all we want. We're not miracle workers, and she surely isn't. But for all intents and purposes of getting a loan, we can expedite that process for them. And so we are encouraging the buyers that we put in there to use her services so we can have a higher success rate. Now, as far as the percentages of getting a buyer lined up for the property, we're at like 99% in less than 30 to 45 days. Okay. And those efforts are stepping up as well, because now we are putting into implementing another way of marketing the home that I learned quite a while ago, and it intrigued me because I had interviewed another investor that does it religiously, and she has a great success rate with it. And I'll share that marketing campaign with you as well. And that's crazy. What it is, we stimulate the property for sale under an auction. Okay, so these buyers that are interested in the property, they could be interested in purchasing outright. They could be investors that just want to have another property in their portfolio to rent out, or they're buyers that can't get traditional financing. So we pool all those people in. They have an hour or two, depending on how we set it up, where we'll have the property open for them. And we're going to tell them the property is going to be open for 2 hours on a given day. Just for all intents and purposes, we'll just say Saturday. It's going to be open from 2 to 4 on Saturday. Come out, take a look at the property, and then they make the highest and best offer. Okay, and it doesn't matter. It can be terms, it can be cash, owner financing, whatever, those are just another example of terms. And then we take the highest and best offer based on the buyer that meets those qualifications. Obviously, they can provide a credit report. We can see how long it's going to take to get them qualified too. So that's just another way that we market the property. And so that's going to really speed up the process in getting somebody within a few days.
Okay.
So do you have any other questions?
No, about this. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
This part is pretty simple. Just get on the phone and call until you find somebody. Pretty much.
Right. Exactly. And I'll tell you something. I've done this enough to know it works. And but it's one of those things that you as an agent or anybody that's working with us as a student has to understand that you have to treat it like a business. Don't treat it as a hobby. And even some of our students that are doing it part-time just to make an extra amount of living and learn about how to invest. I mean, the education that we provide, I mean, you're getting 50 years of combined education between me and my senior partner, Bill Clark. I mean, this guy has been trained from the best of the best as well as I have, but he's even, been mentored by Donald Trump's right-hand man. I mean, he went to New York City, went up to Trump Towers. He seen the room that they did The Apprentice in and just got to get the tour. I mean, he spent a lot of money actually being mentored by that. It wasn't free. So a lot of education and experience, comes into play with this, where we have really mastered a lot of these techniques that we learned through classes that Bill and I have taken. And so it's just a great opportunity for anybody that is looking to become an investor, or, they're already established as a real estate agent and want to, or have their license at least, and want to, be more and more successful. So you treat it as a business, block out the time for yourself to make the phone calls. And it can be 1 hour, it could be 2 hours, it can be 3 hours, it doesn't matter. But just know that you're in a quiet setting, you're not going to get disturbed, and you're in the zone. You're just in the zone. And I myself, as well as some other successful agents, I've watched them at work. And we would just get in a quiet room and we would make the phone calls, and just back-to-back phone calls. And because it is a numbers game, and it's just getting the masses of people to call.
Yeah.
Now, as you grow, I will show you ways how you can build teams, okay, for your business. Even though you're not a broker, you can actually build teams of agents that can work under you, and then you become the master, so to speak, of teams. And I'm sure you've been in the real estate business enough to know that real estate agents do have teams. They might have agents that are buyer's agents. They might have agents that are just doing pre-screening process. There may be some non-agents that you hire to have them. You teach them what I'm sharing with you on how to make the phone calls for you, because you're spending more time putting together the contracts,
Yeah. It sounds great. There's just, so much information, so much
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So what I always recommend is don't get overwhelmed, and you want to just stay focused on one particular marketing campaign, maybe two at the most, so you have a good balance, and so you don't get overwhelmed. Because right now, as we just all get programmed, we get so much information, then we don't have a plan of action, and then we're just counterproductive. We're just chasing our tail.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So what you want to do, get your list and put it in front of you. You have your little script that you can use. I mean, once you do a couple of these, even if you're just leaving a message on the voicemail, you're going to have it down, And so just a matter of saying, hey, is this John? You know, obviously if they have their name listed in the listing via a for sale by owner on Zillow. Now you can also go to Craigslist as well. Are you familiar with Craigslist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm aware of all that.
yeah, so you could pull up Craigslist. You can go to the for sale by owner as well and make phone calls there as well. It doesn't matter. There's other for sale by owner sites. But Zillow seems to be, it seems like most recently that I'm getting better responses from people on Zillow. And I'm thinking Craigslist, I'm thinking more for sale by owners are getting away from Craigslist to market their home now, because Craigslist, as you know, is very limited. You can't do videos on Craigslist to campaign your property. Not only that, once you put on your listing on Zillow, it automatically goes out to like 20 other social network platforms for sale by owners, right? So they're getting a lot more exposure. Plus, they can advertise their home open houses through Zillow.
Sure.
I'm not sure if they can do that on Craigslist. Can they? Maybe they can. No. So
yeah, you can put the hours and.
Oh yeah, you can put the hours, but it doesn't notify them. See, on Zillow, anytime there's a change in activity, if I responded to a property, which I do, I'll get an email from Zillow letting me know if the property went under contract, which typically it doesn't, or there's been a price change, or there's an open house coming about, which is pretty awesome. Now, I'll show you on a separate training segment on how to go after listings that are for sale by owner. Okay, so work your cold market to obtain listings as a real estate agent. Okay, and I'll show you in another segment how to do that.
Okay. So on this particular part of the business, me going out and calling, sellers and offering the lease to purchase option, are we signing a contract? Am I signing a contract with you, your company first? Like how is that gonna work?
At some,
I mean, I'm talking in terms of
protecting yourself, yeah?
Protecting myself, that I'm gonna, get paid when
absolutely
closes from you.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have an independent contractor agreement that we can have you sign. That's no problem, because obviously, like I tell everybody, we want you to feel comfortable working with us. The thing is with us, we're probably gonna more than likely give you the benefit of the doubt if there's a question of where a lead may have came from, because we want to pay you. Because the thing is, the time that I'm spending with you now, I don't want to keep repeating that over and over again because I screwed somebody out of money. And that, karma is not a good thing to have come knocking at your door. Yep. But I'm more than happy to provide independent contractor agreement. I do already have one written up, so that's already in place. So long story, or the short story long, yes, we'll put together a contract for you so you're protected and have that assurance that.
You did mention, would I have to pay a percentage of that money, of that commission, to my broker?
Well, here's what we do, and we leave this up to the agent, okay? Because we don't want you to get uncomfortable with anything that you do through us, okay? Now, everything that we do obviously is legal, but there's a code of ethics that you have to follow, or not code of ethics, but company policy, okay? So we've had some agents where what we would do is we would write you out a check directly to you,
Mhm.
and it's going to be, marketing expenses, and that's legal. Okay, I've run it through, several CPAs while I was down there in Georgia, as an agent broker and as an investor. Okay, so that's what I do. Okay, because we also work with non-agents. They're not licensed, so they don't have to answer to a broker about any monies they earn. But you got to keep in mind the Georgia real estate law and most laws in most states that we've dealt with. You cannot get paid but by a commission. The only way that you can get paid in the eyes of the real estate or the board of realtors or the real estate commission is through a commission. And a commission is, the definition of a commission is through a sale
Right.
or a referral,
Right.
or you are a broker and your agents under you, through their efforts, you have a commission split agreement, just like you do currently with your broker. So I know I'm kind of rambling on a little bit, but I'm going somewhere with this. So let's say you have, I don't know what your commission split is with your broker, but when I was a broker down there, any referral fee that my agents obtained through their efforts, I didn't take any of that money away from them, okay? Because the referrals are so few and far between. There's very few agents that have figured out and mastered referrals. Typically in the real estate world of a realtor, if you had a buyer that was moving to, say, San Diego, California, obviously that's out of your wheelhouse. So you're going to call an agent in San Diego and say, hey, Sally Smith, I got a buyer for you. I'd like to refer you. And you fill out the referral form request, get their broker to sign it so everybody's on the same board so nobody gets amnesia. Then you send that buyer information over to them. They find them a property, and then you get a 25, I think 25% seems to be standard, but it's all negotiable. So let's say, for argument's sake, you agreed to 25%. They bought a $200,000 house. The agent got $6,000, and then you get the 25% of that $6,000. Now you take it back to your broker because the check's made out to your broker's company name, and then your broker is going to take out his or her portion of what your independent contractor agreement is. Correct?
Right. Yeah.
Now, do you have your current broker? Does he or she have in your agreement with your broker the amount that he or she would take out of a referral that you receive?
No, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to check on that.
Yeah, so check on that because every broker is different. I, as a broker down in Atlanta, I didn't take any money away from them because there was no monies or cost I was involved in personally, and they earned it,
Yeah.
So the other way that we would pay you, we could make it out to your broker, and then you would have your broker cut you a check from the difference, okay? And it doesn't matter to us either way, but I always like to, give as much as I can to the agents for their efforts. So I have no problem, since I'm not licensed, I can legally cut you a check directly for marketing expense, okay? We'll call it marketing expense because that's what it is. It's marketing expense. You work for us as an independent, and this is, the amount that you got paid for the efforts that you put in.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we just leave that up to you.
Okay. So what's the next step?
Okay.
Because I have other things. It's just so much that I want to talk about,
Oh yeah. So the next step is I put together this independent contractor agreement. I'll send it over to you by email. you can sign it. Obviously, read it first. If it's to everything, you feel comfortable with, the wording's right, sign it, get it back over to us. We'll sign, you get a copy back through email. And then from there, you would go ahead and proceed in picking out whether you want to work the for sale by owners or, pull up the expired list and get access to the expired list and call on them.
Right.
So that's it.
Okay. I assume you will email me or share your scripts.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So if you want me to, I can pull up more of a current list on the multiple listing service because I do have access.
Okay.
And then I can.
Most expires from the FMLS don't have the owner's information.
Right. So we maybe just lean away from that for the time being. And let me do some additional research and see if there's a way for me to get that.
I mean, the only way I can think of is just, getting Mojo or Redx or Vulcan 7 or Espresso Agent.
Right. Yeah, and I've done those scrapers before. Some work, some don't. Again, it's an additional cost I wouldn't recommend doing because there's so many for sale by owners out there right now, through Zillow. You're going to be more than busy. And the nice thing is you don't have to, pick your state. You don't have to, pick your state when you're calling, FSBOs. Okay. But ideally, I would stick to your state because if we do this auction campaign and you want to be more involved, then you have access to the property because it's in your backyard. Yeah.
So, okay, perfect. So that's cool. Now, I did mention, that I was interested in finding out more about flipping and rehab, getting hard money lender, the short sales. I mean, I'm open to everything, and I want to start doing what I need to do, because I know this is going to take time. It can take 2-3 months before anything closes with you guys, or it might not. So